that better? Okay, let's try again. Welcome to yoga, everybody. My name is Rachel. Today, we have just a few minutes before we start our flow. So I'm going to talk a little bit about something that in yoga we call finding your edge in a yoga pose. Anytime you come into a yoga pose, it's generally going to be probably a position that you wouldn't naturally take in in a normal everyday situation when you're just going through your life. But it's expanding your range of motion and it's expanding your abilities, your flexibility, your strength, and all of that. And so it's very important to make sure that you don't go past your edge, past your range of motion, past the limit where you can support yourself in a pose if you're balancing or something like that where you have the strength to support yourself. So when we're coming into a yoga pose, it's very, very important to be listening to your body as you come in every step of the way and noticing when you reach that edge where you can no longer stretch, where you no longer feel strong. And at that point, you want to pull back just a little bit. You never want to be all the way on the edge in a yoga pose. You want to be close to it so that you can feel a stretch, so that you are challenging your body and gaining strength, but there isn't a chance that you will injure yourself. Now, this is a really important component of yoga because, and that's also one of the things that makes yoga so different from different other forms of exercise, because it's all about body awareness and trying to bring more consciousness into your body, figure out what your body is capable of at any given moment, and recognizing that that may change as well at any given moment. So we're checking in regularly. Every time we come into a new pose, we're checking in with our muscles to see how it feels in the stretch. We're checking in with our breath to make sure that we're not pushing ourselves past the limit. And we are pulling back and taking a rest if we feel like it's too much. And once you take that and apply it outside of the mat, off of the mat, then you start to realize that this sense of control of your own body and recognition of your own limitations allows you to show up more authentically in relationships. You are more true to who you really are when you're talking to people, interacting with people, and even when you're taking on responsibilities and making expectations for yourself in your own daily life. So today, as we go through our practice, I would like to invite you all to really take a look inside yourselves in each pose, finding that edge, seeing what your full range of motion is, and then pulling back a little bit so that you still feel the stretch, you still are challenging yourself, but you're honoring your own body's limitations and remembering that each body is going to look different. It doesn't need to look any particular way. We're just meeting our bodies where they are right now in this moment. Okay, let's begin our flow. We're going to make our way over to our mats and come to a nice, comfortable laying down position. So you can be flat on your mat here, hands resting by your side. Or maybe your hands come to your body so you can feel your breath underneath your fingers. Check in with the lower back here. If your back feels great, flat on the back, that's good. If your lower back is bothering you, you can always bring the knees pointing up to the sky. And that helps relieve the pressure on the lower back a little bit. Or perhaps you'd like to bring the legs into easy pose. Wherever you are, close your eyes and settle into your mat. And start to call attention to your breath. At first, just noticing how the breath is feeling today. Feel your chest rising and falling with each breath. Notice how the breath is affecting your belly. Maybe you can feel your breath move your shoulders into your back. And now start to lengthen and deepen each breath. Each inhale, each exhale, just a little bit longer than the previous one. Continuing to stretch out the breath little by little until with each breath in, you feel your lungs filling up all the way with fresh, clean air. And with each exhale, you're emptying out completely. Hold on to your nice full deep breath and do a little body scan here. Just a check-in, head to toe, noticing any different sore spots, remembering any injuries you have, anything that may affect your abilities to come into a pose today. Make any of those mental notes, any areas you want to be careful of. And then come back to the breath, taking a couple more full, deep breaths here, just being inside of your body. Blink your eyes open. Bring the arms up overhead, flat on the ground. Take a big breath in here, stretching really long. Big good morning stretch. On the exhale, knees come to the chest. Wrap the arms around the legs. And lift your forehead up to your knees, squeezing everything tight into a ball. Inhale, back to the big good morning stretch. Arms up overhead, legs stretched out long. Exhale, back into cannonball, wrapping the arms around the legs, lifting the forehead up to the knees, squeezing everything tight together. Release your head back down to your mat. Bring your hands to your kneecaps and do some circles with the knees. Bringing awareness to the lower back and the hips. Waking up the nerve endings. Maybe it feels like a little massage on your lower back. And let's find circles going the other way. Come back to center and then float the legs up in an imaginary tabletop. 90-degree angle in the knees and hips. Arms come out wide to the sides in a T. Take a big breath in here. On the exhale, drop the knees down to one side. See if you can keep that 90-degree angle or as close as you can come. Knees come all the way down to the ground. Fingertips on that side can tuck in the crease of the top knee. And then turn your head, bringing your gaze over to your opposite hand. Bring awareness to your back, your spine. Noticing where you feel this twist. Maybe in the hips, center back, upper back, or the neck. And release that hand back out to the side. Inhale, lifting the knees up to center. Exhale, dropping the legs down the other way, all the way to the ground, nice and slow. Fingertips can tuck in the crease of the top knee, if that feels good. And turn the head, bringing the gaze to the opposite hand. Bring awareness to the spine. Perhaps you can compare where you feel this twist on this side versus the other side. Release that top hand back out to the side. Inhale, lifting the knees back up to center. And then tuck your fingers in the creases of both knees. And let's rock and roll forward and back with the breath. Take a big breath in here. Exhale, rolling forward up to a seat. Inhale, coming back down. 2 more times with the breath. And make your way into easy pose. Cross-legged position. You can have your feet open so that both feet and both knees are resting on the ground, or you can tuck the feet underneath the knees if that feels better. Inhale, hands come up overhead. Exhale, folding forward, hinging from the hips. You can release your hands down, walk the fingertips out. And once you find your edge, round out the back and relax the forehead down towards the ground. On your next inhale, slowly lift yourself back up to a seat and release the hands down to the lap. And let's do some gentle neck rolls. Nice and slow. Just honoring where your body is right now. You can be a little bit faster, a little bit slower. Bigger circles or smaller ones. And let's find circles going in the opposite direction. And then bring your head back up to its normal position. And let's make our way into a side stretch. On an inhale, hands float up overhead. Exhale, stretching down to one side. One hand comes to the mat. Walk the fingers out and let the opposite arm come arcing overhead. You can lean into that arm on the ground, but make sure that opposite hip is staying glued down to the mat. And if you like, you can start to bend the elbow here. You can also keep it straight, find some movement, going in and out, exploring that range of motion. Inhale, back up to center, floating the hands up, stretch the spine up, look up. Exhale, down the other way, other hand comes down, walk the fingers out, and let your opposite arm come arcing overhead. Make sure that opposite hip is glued down to the mat. And maybe bend and straighten the elbow. Come back up to center, breathing in, floating the hands up, stretching up tall. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Reach down, switch your legs. So our legs are crossed the awkward way here. Might feel really different. That's okay. On a breath in, float the hands up high. Exhale, nice and slow forward, hinging from the hips, keeping the spine long. Release the hands out. Walk the fingers out, stretching the spine a little longer. And then once you find your edge, round the back out and relax the forehead down towards the ground. Inhale, walk the hands back, pushing at the chest. And bring the hands outside of the knees. Let's do our seated cat-cow spinal warm-up. On the inhales, rolling the shoulders down the back, arching the back, lean back, peek up at the sky. Exhale, push the spine up behind you, one vertebrae at a time, and then relax the head and neck down. Keep moving like that, just finding your own rhythm. Moving in and out with the breath. Stretching out the breath. Keeping your breath nice and long. And then matching the motion to the speed of your breath. Come back up to a neutral spine, making our way into a twist. Inhale, hands up overhead. Exhale, twisting around to one side. One hand comes behind us, and the other hand resting in front of us, or just crossing over the opposite knee. Take a deep breath up, lifting up on the spine. Exhale, deepening into the twist. Inhale, sitting up tall. Exhale, twisting deeper. Back up to center to breathe in. Float the hands all the way up overhead. Exhale, down to the other side. Other hand comes behind. This hand is either in front or crossing over the opposite knee. Big breath in to sit up a little taller. And go deeper into the twist as you breathe out. Inhale, stretching up the spine. Exhale, peeking over the back shoulder. Back up to center to breathe in. Float the hands up. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Let's make our way to hands and knees tabletop. Oh, somebody left me a message here. Are you supposed? Actually, I can't see anybody. That's just the way that our system is set up. We don't see anybody at all. All I can see here is the names of who's here. So I see some names, and that's all. Okay, let's go to our mats and find our way to hands and knees tabletop. Bringing the wrists right underneath the shoulders, and the knees come right underneath the hips. Inhale, one foot comes up, pushing through the sole of the foot. Imagine that you're stamping it into a wall behind you. And maybe the opposite arm comes up as well. Take a big breath in here, stretching really long. Exhale, release the hand and knee back down to the mat. Switching sides, other leg comes up, pushing through the sole of the foot like you're stamping it into a wall behind you. And then the other arm comes up as well. Or maybe it stays on the ground. Big breath in to stretch long. Exhale, release. Keep going like that. Inhale to lift up the hand and leg. Exhale, releasing back to the mat. Switching sides, breathing in, lifting up the arm and leg. Exhale, release. 3 more on either side. Finding your own rhythm. Going at your own pace. Listening to your breath. 2 more. And last one. Coming back to hands and knees, tabletop. Take a big breath in here. On the exhale, we're going to tuck the toes under and lift the hips up to downward facing dog. So here in downward facing dog, we're going to bring our attention to our legs and bend one knee at a time down towards the mat. Get the blood flowing through the legs and the hips. And then let's find some stillness in the feet. Here you can adjust your foot placement. Your feet might be a little bit closer together, a little bit farther apart, a little closer, farther from the hands. Just depends on the dimensions of your body and what feels right for you. And the heels are reaching towards the ground, but it's okay if they're not touching the ground. Knees are pushing back towards straight. But if it feels better to have a bend in them, that's okay too. Check in with your head here. You want your head and neck to just be dangling down towards the mat and the shoulders pushing down the back, out of the ears, towards the hips. On your next inhale, drop your knees down, coming back to tabletop. Exhale, untuck your toes, push your hips back to your heels and relax your forehead down, coming into child's pose. Your knees can be together. You can have some space between them. Forehead, elbows are resting on the mat. Bring your awareness back to your breath. See if you can notice any changes in the breath since we begin our flow. If not, that's okay too. I'm just checking in. Stretch the breath out. Nice, long, full, deep breaths. With the breath, let's come back up to downward dog. Inhale, lifting up the chest, coming back to tabletop. Exhale, tucking the toes under, pushing the hips up, relaxing the head and neck down. Downward facing dog. Sun salutations. Bending the knees, look forward to the hands, take a deep breath in. On the exhale, make your way up to the front of the mat, in between the hands, forward fold. Inhale to standing, knees bent to unroll the spine with the arms dangling down. Once you lift your head up, float your hands up overhead. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Big breath in here. As you breathe out, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, sweeping them straight back up. Exhale, diving from the hips, keeping the spine long on the way down. Bend your knees, plant your hands on either side of the feet, and then step back to your high plank, upper push-up. We're just going to hold it here just for a couple breaths. You can always drop the knees down or come down to the belly if you're not feeling like staying here. One last deep breath in. Exhale all the way down to the belly. Baby Cobra pose, breathing in, push the shoulders down, lift up just the head and upper chest, keep the elbows bent. Exhale, tucking the toes, lifting the hips up to downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look to the hands, deep breath in. Exhale, coming up to the front of the mat, forward fold. Rising to standing with the breath in, nice and slow, stacking the vertebrae, floating the hands up high. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Big breath in here. As you breathe out, release the hands down to the sides. Inhale, sweeping them straight back up. Diving forward on the breath out. You can bend your knees just a little, but keep the spine long. Bend the knees, plant the hands on either sides of the feet, and step back to your high plank, and then lower down to the belly. Baby Cobra pose to breathe in. Exhale, downward facing dog. Last one, knees bent, look forward, big breath in. Exhale, coming up to the front, forward fold. Inhale, rising to standing, taking your time coming up, floating the hands up overhead. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Big breath in here. As you breathe out, hands come down to the sides. Inhale, sweeping them straight back up overhead. Exhale, folding from the hips. Take your time on the way down. Bend the knees, plant the hands, step back to your high plank, and lower all the way to the belly. Baby Cobra pose, big breath in. Exhale, downward dog. Another chance at child's pose here, dropping the knees down, untucking the toes, pushing the hips to the heels, letting the forehead rest on the mat, and the elbows come down to the mat. Close your eyes. Bringing awareness to the breath. Maybe now the breath has changed just a little bit since the beginning of our flow, our beginning meditation. Maybe not. Notice where in the body you might feel your breath at this time. And now bring your awareness to your fingertips, the tops of the toes. Feel the texture of the mat underneath your fingers and toes. See if you can find all the other points of contact your body is making with the earth here. Feel the ground underneath you supporting your entire body. On your next inhale, lift your chest back up to hands and knees tabletop and bring the knees together to touch. Right foot comes up, pushing through the sole of the foot. Imagine that you're stamping it into a wall behind you. Suck up the core to your spine, and maybe the other arm is coming up as well, stretching through the fingers. Let's do our crunches here. Take a deep breath in to stretch really long. Exhale, elbow to knee, coming into a little crunch. 4 more at your own pace with your breath. Lengthening the breath, stretching the motion out to match the breath. 2 more. And last one. Inhale, stretching the arm and leg out long. Exhale, release hand and knee back to the mat. Switching sides, left leg comes up, pushing through the sole of the foot like you're stamping it into a wall behind you. And the right arm, maybe as well, maybe it stays on the ground. Inhale, lengthening. Exhale, elbow to knee or just knee to nose if the hand's on the ground. 4 more. Going with the breath. 3. 2. And last one. Inhale, stretch the arm and leg out long. Exhale, release hand and knee back to the mat. Take a big breath in here. On the breath out, downward facing dog. Bend your knees, look forward to your hands. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, come up to the front of the mat, forward folds. Rising up to standing with bent knees and arms dangling down. Big breath in takes you all the way up. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Bring your hands to your hips. Bend the knees and step 1 foot back. Coming into a nice wide stance here, just listening to your body. It can be a little wider, a little bit more narrow. Front toes pointing straight forward, back toes toward the long edge of the mat. Lift the arms up. Make sure the back hand is nice and high. And then bring the gaze over the front middle finger. Yoga jumping jacks here with the breath. As you breathe in, straighten out the front knee, bring the hands up overhead. Exhale, slowly lowering back down to warrior two. 4 more, going at your own pace. Letting your breath be your guide. 3, I'm just counting so you know where I am. No need to stay with me. 2, and last one. Inhale to reverse warrior. Front arm is coming up overhead, arcing like a rainbow. It's almost a side stretch here, leaning back into the side. The back hand can stretch down the back leg, or maybe wrap back behind you. Fingers coming towards the front hip. Gaze can be up at the ceiling, down at the ground, anywhere in between. One more breath in here. On the exhale, extended side angle. Front elbow is going to drop down to the front leg, and that back arm is coming up overhead. Make a nice straight line in that back arm, stretching from your top middle finger all the way through the back heel. One more breath in here. As you breathe out, release that top hand down to the ground and plant it right next to the front foot. Coming up onto the back toes, we're going to stretch the other hand up to the sky. Try to bring the arms perpendicular to the ground here. And if it's okay on the neck, you can bring your gaze up to your upper hand. Last big breath in here. On the exhale, drop that hand down to the ground and step your front foot back to your back foot, coming into high plank. Lower all the way to the belly. Baby Cobra pose, breathing in. Exhale, downward facing dog. Taking another break here. Drop the knees to the mat. Untuck the toes. Sit back on the heels. Make sure your toes aren't overlapping. And then relax your head down. Elbows coming to the mat. Close the eyes. Feel your breath moving through your body. Take a little body scan here. Just comparing one side to the other. Raising body awareness again. Just figuring out how you feel after doing those poses just on that one side. See if you can notice where in the body you feel those poses, how your two sides are feeling different right now. We'll come back into child's pose after we do our warrior sequence on the other side, and we can compare again at that time. Stretch the breath out, finding a long, deep, full breath once again. And on your next inhale, lift up to hands and knees, tabletop. Exhale, tucking the toes, lifting the hips up, downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward to the hands, take a deep breath in. Exhale, coming up to the front of the mat, forward folds. Inhale to standing, knees bent to unroll the spine, stack the vertebrae, then float the hands up high. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Bringing hands to the hips. We're going to bend the knees and step the other foot back. Nice wide stance here. Just turn around so you guys can still see the front of me. Hips open toward the long edge of the mat. Front knee is bent. Bring the arms up and make sure that backhand is nice and high. And then bring the gaze over the front middle finger. Yoga jumping jacks here with the breath. Inhale, knees straight, hands up overhead. Exhale, slowly coming back down, warrior two. 4 more, listening to your breath. Going at your own pace. 3, 2, and last one. Inhale, coming to reverse where your legs are staying the same. Front arm arcing overhead like a rainbow. Back hand stretching down the back leg. Or wrapping back behind. Fingers are reaching towards the front hip. One more big breath in here. On the exhale, legs stay the same. Arms windmilling around. Drop the front elbow down to the front knee and reach that upper arm overhead. Try to make a nice straight line, stretching from the top middle finger all the way through the back heel. Last big breath in here. On the exhale, drop that upper arm down to the ground, planting the hand right next to the front foot. Come up onto your back toes. And then the other arm is going to stretch up to the sky. So if that back leg is starting to droop, you can always drop the knee down to the mat. One last big breath in here. On the exhale, release the hand down to the ground. Step your front foot back to your back foot and lower down all the way to the belly. Inhale, baby cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Again into child's pose, dropping the knees, sitting back on the heels, relaxing the forehead to the ground. Close your eyes. Turn the gaze inward. Comparing the two sides of the body. Just noticing how they feel different. Calling back to our last break. Maybe there's a change now after we've done those poses on both sides. Noticing how the muscles feel in the arms and the legs. And come back to a nice, slow, full, deep breath. On your next breath in, lift the chest up to tabletop. Exhale, tucking the toes, lifting the hips up, downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look to the hands, take a deep breath in. On the breath out, make your way up to the front, forward fold. Rising up to standing with an inhale, knees bent, stack the vertebrae, then float the hands up high. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Let's make our way to mountain pose here. You can adjust your clothing as needed. For mountain pose, we can have our big toes touching with about an inch, inch and a half between the heels. Or if it feels better to you, bringing the feet on 2 different train tracks. Hands come by the sides, palms facing forward. Roll the shoulders down the back. Check in with the knees here. You want to have a tiny little micro bend in the knees. Keeping the knees soft. And then peek down at your toes, lift them up, spread them out, and rock back and forth. If you like, you can close your eyes here just a little bit so that you can really bring all awareness to the nerve endings in the bottoms of the feet. Feeling all the points of contact the feet are making with the earth. And then find stillness. Root down through the feet, lift up on the spine. Imagine you feel a string pulling the top of your head straight up to the sky. Blink the eyes open. Let's make our way into tree pose. All weight is coming to one leg. With the other leg, we're going to have the knee pointing straight out to the side. You can keep your toes on the ground and just set the sole of the foot on the ankle. Raise it up so the heel comes right underneath the knee, or come all the way up on the thigh above the knee. Take a moment to find your leg balance here. And when you're ready, nice and steady on the legs, if you like, you can include the arms. So I really like to bring my fingertips together up overhead. That feels good to me. Some people like to have their palms touching, arms pointing out to the sides, whatever feels nice. Bring awareness back to that standing foot. Notice how it's making all these tiny, minute little adjustments, keeping you real steady, even though it's constantly moving. Give your foot a little gratitude. One more big breath in here. On the exhale, release, shake it all out. Other side. All weight coming to the other leg. You've got this knee pointing straight out to the side, toes on the ground, sole of the foot on the ankle, heel coming right underneath the knee, or all the way up on the thigh. Find your leg balance to start. And once you feel steady on the feet, maybe the hands come up. Wherever they feel good is fine. Notice that standing foot. Maybe one side feels more steady than the other. Maybe they feel just the same. Last big breath in here. Exhale, release, shake it all out. Ragdoll pose. Feet are hip width distance apart. On the breath in, float the hands up high. Exhale, folding from the hips. Nice long spine on the way down. Relax the head and neck down. And then grab for opposite elbows. You can bend one knee at a time to give yourself a little swaying motion. And release. Fingertips come down to the mat. Weight comes to the hands. Heel to the feet back together. Bend the knees. Inhale up to standing. Floating the hands up high. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Coming into chair pose. Hands come up to breathe in. Exhale, sitting back into the chair, bending the knees, bending the hips, pushing the hips down and back, and wiggling the toes to keep the weight in the heels. And then lifting up on the spine, pushing the shoulders down. Last deep breath in here. Exhale, push the knees back, fold forward, relax the upper body down. Weight comes to the hands, heel to the feet, coming back out wide. And grab for opposite elbows, coming into your ragdoll pose with the arms crossed the awkward way. You can bend one knee at a time, finding a little movement. It's so great to come into ragdoll pose because we are allowing gravity to help relax our spine, just pulling everything the opposite way than it usually does. Imagine you can feel all the kinks coming right out of the spine. And release the hands down to the ground. Weight comes to the hands. Heel till the feet back together. Bend the knees. Inhale to standing nice and slow. Floating the hands up overhead. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. We're going to do one more balancing pose today. I'll turn to the side so you can see me from the side. This is Warrior 3. Bringing all weight to one leg. On an inhale, lift the other knee up, arms up overhead. Exhale, bend your standing leg, hinge forward from the hips, and we're going to send that upper foot out behind us. Arms coming out wide like airplane wings. If you like, you can also bring the hands to heart center. So everything is reaching towards being parallel with the ground, but it's okay if it's not all the way there. If you want to tap those toes on the ground at any time, that's okay. Focus on holding on to a nice slow breath. On your next inhale, see if you can lift that knee back up, arms floating up overhead. Exhale, release, shake it all out. Other side, all weight comes to the other leg. Got this other knee coming up, arms float up over the head, take a big breath in. Exhale, bend your standing leg, hinge forward from the hips. Other leg is coming straight out behind us like it's stamping into a wall. If it's not all the way parallel to the ground, that's okay. It's just our direction. That's just where we're going. Notice how that standing foot is still making all those little adjustments, keeping you nice and steady. And on our next inhale, lift that knee up, back up, high arms floating up overhead. Exhale, release, shake it all out. And let's come all the way down. Come to the front of the mat. Hands come up on a breath in. Exhale, folding forward, bending the knees, planting the hands on either sides of the feet, and stepping back to the high plank. Lower all the way to the belly. Baby Cobra pose to breathe in. Exhale, downward facing dog. One last rest before we complete our flow. Child's pose. Make your way back to a strong, full breath. Noticing the different qualities of the breath now after those balancing poses. Slow down the breath. On the next inhale, lift up to tabletop. And then make your way to a seat. You can just roll over the legs, or however you want to get there. We'll start with staff pose here, sending the legs out long in front of you, flexing the toes, pulling the toes toward the face. Knees are pushing down towards the mat, but make sure that your heels are still touching the mat. If you push down too much, you'll notice the heels start to float up off the mat. That means the knees are locked, and that's cutting off your circulation, so you don't want to do that. Hands come on either sides of the hips, and then rock side to side. Tuck in the thumbs underneath you just a little bit. Take a big breath in here, lifting up on the spine. Everything in the body is super active. Now we're going to release just the hands. Keep the spine long. Inhale, lifting the hands up overhead. Exhale, folding forward from the hips. Long spine on the way down. Find your edge here. Remember, it doesn't matter how far you go down. Just how this pose feels inside of your body. You can have your hands up beside the legs, wrapped around the feet. Inhale, walk the hands back, lifting up the chest. We're going to bend one knee and bring the sole of that foot against the opposite leg. Hands come up to breathe in and fold forward, reaching for that extended leg foot as you breathe out. Notice where you feel this stretch. Maybe you feel it in your back, your leg. Come back up on a breath in and switch sides. Other leg comes in, sole the foot against the opposite leg. Inhale, hands up. Exhale, folding forward, reaching for the foot, relaxing the head and neck down over that front knee. Maybe you come down farther on this side or not as much. That's okay. We're just honoring our bodies. Wherever your edge is fine. On your next inhale, walk your hands back, lifting up your chest. Bring your hands behind you, fingers pointing towards the hips, and then plant the feet on the mat, knees pointing towards the sky, and rock the knees side to side. It's a really nice release for the hips here. Boat pose, knees pointing up to the sky, clasping the hands outside the legs. Lengthen the spine, roll the shoulders down the back, sit up really straight and tall. Now, keeping everything else where it is, release just the hands, keep all that length in the spine, tuck the fingers in the creases of both knees, and maybe you want to lean back and float the feet. So if this is already enough, you can stay here. You can release your hands, or if you like, you can do some boat sit-ups with the breath. Inhale, straighten out the legs, lean back, don't touch the ground. Exhale, coming back into boat. Maybe try for 2 more with the breath. Inhaling to open up. Exhale, knees come back to the chest. Last one. Drop the feet down, put some space between the feet. Hands come behind, and once again, rock the knees side to side. And let's come all the way down onto our backs. Right where we started, back into cannonball, drawing the knees into the chest, wrapping the arms around the legs. Take a deep breath in here. Exhale, forehead to knees, curl tight into a ball. Release your head back down to the mat. Bring hands to the kneecaps and do those gentle circles again. Perhaps you recall what this felt like at the beginning of our flow. Maybe it feels the same or maybe different now. And then find circles in the opposite direction. And release, bringing the arms out wide in a T, floating the legs in a tabletop. Take a big breath in here. Exhale, drop the knees down to one side all the way to the ground. Fingertips can tuck in the crease of the knee. Gaze comes over to the opposite hand. Release that hand back out to the side. Knees come up to center, breathing in. Exhale, drop them down to the other side, all the way to the ground. Fingertips tucking in the crease of the top knee. Gaze coming over to the opposite hand. Release your hand back out to the side. Knees come up to center on a breath in. And release, making your way back into Shavasana, our final resting posture. Taking a few moments here of some silent meditation so our bodies can really absorb all the benefits of that practice. Bring the chin into the chest, rock the head side to side, and let your head fall back to its natural center resting point. Lift the heart up and pull the shoulder blades down the back. Find a nice comfortable position for your hands, palms facing up or down. Or bring in the hands to the belly to feel the breath. And release your body. Let all the tension flow out of you. Imagine you're melting into the ground. Everything is fully relaxed. Release your breath, returning back to natural breathing. And release your mind, just watching your thoughts come and go, like little fishies swimming by you in a river. You see them and then they swim away and disappear to be replaced by something new. Find a few moments of stillness to complete your practice today. Blink your eyes open. You can wiggle your toes. Do some circles with your wrists and ankles. And then make your way back up to a seat. We'll just do a couple more little poses here to shake our yoga fa. Inhale, floating the hands up high. Exhale, folding forward, stretching the hands out long in front of you, rounding out the back, relaxing the forehead down. Inhale, lifting your chest back up, floating the hands up overhead. Exhale, side stretch down to one side. Back up on a breath in and down the other way as you breathe out. Inhale, stretching the hands up high. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Thank you all so much for joining me today for yoga.